I woke up to the sound of Ethan's electric toothbrush buzzing in the bathroom and the smell of over-toasted bread. Same as always. Every morning felt like we were hitting repeat on our lives. He left the bathroom in his towel, scrolling through emails before he even looked at me. "Morning," he mumbled, still locked into his screen. "Morning," I said, leaning on my elbow, watching him move around like a robot. 5 years married, and we were basically co-workers in a shared space now. "My name's Jenna. I'm 33 and I live in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I work from home as a graphic designer, which sounds cooler than it actually is. It's mostly edits for local businesses and cleaning up terrible logos from people who still think Comic Sans is edgy. Ethan's a corporate guy, middle management now, chasing some promotion at a tech company in Des Moines. We're comfortable, stable, but lately it's like stability turned into concrete. Nothing was changing, just grinding on like clockwork. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. I'd been bringing up having kids more and more. Ethan always had a new reason why it wasn't the right time. We're too busy, the market's a mess, or we should enjoy this stage a little longer. The excuses piled up like dirty laundry, and I was the only one trying to do something about it. Today was supposed to be routine, in and out of the hospital, a minor cyst removal. Ovarian, nothing scary. My OB said it was basic. You'll be sore for a couple days, nothing major. I'd be home by dinner, maybe on the couch with a heating pad and a trashy Netflix series. Ethan sat down at the kitchen counter while I grabbed my to-go cup. He barely looked up. "You sure you don't want me to drive you?" he asked. "Nah, I'll Uber. It's not a big deal." I kissed him on the cheek. "It's just a cyst. I'll be fine." He finally looked at me then. Not quite warm, but not cold either. Just distracted. "We'll talk more about it soon, okay?" he said. I knew what it meant, the baby talk, the never-ending pause on my future. I nodded, told him I loved him, and left. The Uber driver was chatty, but I barely listened. I was texting my mom, double-checking the hospital address, running through my mental to-do list. I wasn't scared. This was easy. People did this kind of thing all the time. It was just another Tuesday, another boring day in a marriage running on autopilot. I checked in, changed into the paper gown, and gave the nurse my phone to lock up. "You'll be out before you know it," she smiled. Yeah, that's what I thought too. I woke up with dry lips and a throat like sandpaper. Everything felt heavier than it should have. My limbs, my chest, even my thoughts. The lights above me were soft and blurry, and there was a constant beep somewhere nearby, steady and annoying. Then I felt it. Pain. Not where I expected. It wasn't where the cyst had been. It was deeper. Lower. A dull throb, like something had been scooped out of me. My hand drifted under the blanket, and I flinched. There was thick padding between my legs. Not normal, not for a cyst removal. I turned my head and saw a nurse checking the monitor beside me. She looked maybe mid-20s, ponytail pulled tight, like she wasn't planning to stay long. "Hey," I croaked, my voice barely there. "Something feels off." She glanced at me and smiled too quickly. "You're doing okay. Vitals look good." That's not what I asked. I struggled to sit up, but everything inside me screamed. "This hurts. Way more than it should." "What happened?" Her smile twitched. She looked at the floor. "Dr. Nelson will speak with you soon. You're stable now. Just rest, okay?" "No," I snapped. "I want to know now. What did they do to me?" She hesitated. Her eyes shifted toward the door. Then she leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. "Your husband. He approved something else. He signed for another procedure." I blinked hard, trying to clear the fuzz from my brain. "What do you mean, another procedure? He signed for it? What are you talking about?" She straightened fast and started fussing with the IV pole. "I can't say more. I really shouldn't have said that. Just wait for the doctor." I could feel my pulse in my throat. My chest tightened like it was caving in. I grabbed the rail on the bed and pulled myself upright despite the pain. "I want my phone. Now." She paused, clearly panicking. "Ma'am, you really should wait. Phone. Now." She looked torn, then finally opened the drawer beside my bed and handed it over. My fingers shook as I unlocked it and dialed Ethan. Straight to voicemail. I tried again. Same thing. The nurse handed me a clipboard with a form and a pen. "This is for discharge instructions. You'll just initial here." "I'm not signing anything until someone tells me what the hell happened to me," I snapped. "What did he sign off on?" She backed up a step. Ma'am, please, I'm just doing my job. I don't have all the details. You said my husband approves something. That's not doing your job. That's covering for someone. Her hands were clenched around the chart now. She looked toward the door again, then back at me with guilt all over her face. Dr. Nelson will explain. I'm not supposed to say more. My stomach turned. I tried Ethan again, voicemail again. I stared at my phone, rage pushing past the pain now. What did he do? I muttered, more to myself than to her. The nurse turned and practically bolted from the room, leaving me alone with nothing but that awful beeping and the fire rising in my chest. Something was wrong, really wrong, and I was going to find out what it was. The heart monitor next to me started beeping faster, matching the pounding in my chest. My fingers curled around the edge of the blanket as I fought to stay upright. The pain in my lower abdomen wasn't just soreness anymore. It was heavy, wrong, and radiating deep in a way I didn't recognize. I heard footsteps just before the door opened. A man in a white coat stepped in, clean-shaven, mid-50s maybe, thin-frame glasses perched on his nose like he'd never once rushed anywhere in his life. "Good morning, Jenna," he said in a tone so calm it pissed me off instantly. "I'm Dr. Nelson. I performed your procedure today." "What the hell did you do to me?" My voice cracked. But I kept my eyes locked on him. He pulled the rolling stool over to my bedside and sat, flipping open a tablet. "Let's start from the top. You came in today for a scheduled cyst removal. During the procedure, we encountered a secondary issue, an abnormality that raised long-term concerns regarding your reproductive health." My blood ran cold. "What kind of concerns?" He didn't flinch. "Given the appearance of your uterine tissue and after consulting with your husband, who expressed concern about your history and potential complications, we proceeded with a partial hysterectomy." I stared at him. No words, just static in my head. He kept going. "It was a minimally invasive laparoscopic approach, very standard. Recovery will be quicker than you think. And it's not total, just partial. You still have your ovaries. Hormonal function should remain intact." What I finally managed to say, the word barely forming. "You took out my uterus?" Dr. Nelson looked straight at me like he was explaining a parking ticket. "It was a medical decision based on intraoperative findings and prior history. Your husband had medical power of attorney, and we had verbal and written consent. Legally and ethically, we followed protocol." "You mean he signed off on that?" "I didn't consent to this. I came in for a damn cyst." "I understand this is a shock," he said, folding his hands in his lap like this was a therapy session. "But these decisions are sometimes best made in the moment, with patient well-being prioritized. Your husband indicated you'd discussed your fears about pregnancy and long-term fertility. He was concerned for your health." I grabbed my phone and dialed Ethan again. Straight to voicemail. Again, I slammed it against the mattress. "You cut out my uterus without asking me," I said slowly, staring right into his face. "And you're sitting here acting like it's no big deal?" Dr. Nelson didn't blink. "You're stable. That's what matters now." "That's not all that matters," I growled. "You let someone else make a permanent decision about my body while I was unconscious." He stood. "I think we should give you some time. When you're more rested, someone from patient services will go over everything. For now, focus on recovery." I clenched my jaw, blinking fast, trying not to let tears show. "I want the paperwork, all of it. The consent forms, the reports, everything signed." "I'll have a nurse assist with that," he said, already halfway to the door. "Please try to stay calm." The door shut behind him like a slap in the face. I pressed the call button so hard my thumb ached. A different nurse came in, tall, blonde, older, and I didn't even wait for her to speak. "I need copies of all my consent forms. Now." She gave a tight nod. "I'll request them for you." I couldn't feel the lower half of my body properly, but the rage? That I felt just fine. 10 minutes later, the nurse came back with a manila folder pressed tight to her chest. She didn't say a word, just handed it over and walked out like it was radioactive. My hands shook opening it. First page was a general pre-op consent, already signed from 2 days before. I recognized that one. That was mine. But the next sheet hit like a gut punch. There it was, Ethan's signature, bold and clear under secondary procedure authorization. Below that, scribbled in a messy, half-finished loop, was my name. Only, I didn't remember signing that. Didn't even look like my writing. It was shaky, faint, like someone traced it with a left hand in the dark. Beneath that, in block print, someone had added, "Patient appeared too anxious to sign. Husband signed in her best interest." I nearly tore the paper in half. Too anxious. That's what they put down? I was calm that morning, steady, focused. If anything, Ethan had been the one acting weird. I shoved the folder aside and grabbed my phone again. Still no texts, no missed calls, straight to voicemail. I didn't even leave a message this time. Just stared at the wall, my heart pounding so hard I felt it in my teeth. This was not a misunderstanding. This was betrayal. Full stop. The door creaked and a younger nurse stepped in, ponytail swinging, badge reading Kelsey. She looked like she'd drawn the short straw. "You need anything?" she asked, voice soft. "Yeah," I snapped. "The truth. What exactly happened in that operating room?" She shifted her weight, eyes darting to the folder on my lap. "I already saw the forms," I said. "Tell me what happened after I was under. Did anyone question what he signed?" Kelsey hesitated, chewing her bottom lip. I can't speak on the decisions made during surgery. That's for Dr. Nelson. You were in the room or you weren't? Which one is it?" I demanded. "I was there pre-op," she said finally. "You seemed calm to me. Focused, actually." "Then why the hell did someone write that I was too anxious to sign?" Kelsey's mouth tightened. "Look, I can't comment on that. If I say the wrong thing, I could lose my job." I sat up straighter despite the pain. "They removed my uterus. That's not a typo or a billing error. That's my life. My future. And I didn't agree to it." Kelsey looked like she might cry. "I'm so sorry. I wish I could tell you more, but I can't." I didn't let her off the hook. "Did anyone question Ethan when he signed that? Did anyone ask where I was in this decision? Dr. Nelson will go over everything with you," she whispered. "He's the one who gave the final approval." I clenched the folder in my lap so tight my knuckles cracked. "Get him back in here. I want to speak to him again. Now." Kelsey nodded and stepped out without another word. The room went quiet, just the beeping of the machines and the sound of my breath, shallow and shaky. I stared down at Ethan's signature again, bold and smooth like he'd been proud to do it. That's when it hit me. He didn't hesitate. He didn't flinch. He planned this. The knock was soft, like someone testing the air. I didn't say anything. The door creaked open anyway. Ethan stepped in, holding a to-go coffee like this was just a casual hospital visit. Same khakis from this morning, but he'd thrown on a hoodie like he was trying to look relaxed. "Hey," he said, looking around like he wasn't sure where to stand. "You're awake?" I didn't answer, just stared. He stepped closer, setting the cup on the rolling tray beside me. I came as soon as I could. I had back-to-back meetings." "Save it," I said, picking up the manila folder and tossing it into his chest. "Read." He caught it awkwardly and flipped it open. His eyes moved over the pages, then flicked back to me. "Okay, Jenna. Look, before you get upset." "Too late." He held his hands up like I was overreacting to a parking ticket. "I didn't know they'd go that far. When Dr. Nelson called, he said they found something unexpected. He sounded urgent. I panicked." "You panicked and signed off on a goddamn hysterectomy?" "It was partial," he snapped. "And he said it was the safest call. You've had issues before, remember? You've said yourself how scared you were of pregnancy complications." My jaw locked. "That's not consent. That was a conversation. Not a green light for you to mutilate me behind my back." He flinched. "Jesus, Jenna, don't say it like that." "How should I say it, Ethan? That you stripped me of my future? That you made a permanent decision without me while I was knocked out?" He ran a hand through his hair and paced to the corner of the room. "I thought you'd be grateful later. I was trying to protect you." "From what?" "From becoming a mother, from getting what I've been asking for since year 3 of this marriage." "You were obsessed," he said flatly, turning back around. "You wouldn't let it go. Every conversation was about ovulation, timing, baby names. Hell, you even brought home that damn parenting book last month. So you figured you'd just solve it. Unplug the machine." "I figured," he said, narrowing his eyes, "that you were spiraling, and I wasn't going to let you ruin your body or your life chasing some fantasy we couldn't afford." I stared at him. This man, this person standing in front of me, wasn't my husband. He sounded more like a coworker giving a quarterly review. You had no right. I had power of attorney. Only for emergencies. This wasn't an emergency. My voice cracked, but I didn't back down. You stole from me. He crossed his arms. You're being hormonal. You're not thinking clearly. Don't you dare. My voice exploded out of me. Don't ever say that to me again. He glanced toward the hallway like he was embarrassed someone might have heard. Keep your voice down, Jesus. No. I jabbed a finger toward the door. You keep your voice down. You lied to me. You signed for me. You gave them a fake reason to go into my body and take something I didn't agree to lose. He shrugged. You act like I killed someone. You killed my trust, my choice, my damn future. He picked up the folder again and pointed at the signature line. You said you felt anxious that morning. Maybe you did sign this and forgot. Don't play dumb. You know that's not my handwriting. Ethan gave me a tired look, like I was being ridiculous. Do you even hear yourself? You're in a hospital bed, drugged up, making wild accusations. No, I'm in a hospital bed because you put me here. You made the one decision that wasn't yours to make. He stepped back toward the door, grabbing the coffee he brought in like it was some kind of consolation prize. You need to rest. You'll feel differently when the pain meds wear off. I shook my head slowly. You really don't see it, do you? I see someone who's emotional and doesn't have the full picture. I let out a bitter laugh. I've got more than enough of the picture now. He paused at the door, hand on the handle. Call me when you're ready to talk like an adult. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just watched him walk out like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just broken something inside me I'd never get back. The door clicked shut behind Ethan, and I just sat there, staring at it like he might walk back in and undo everything. But he didn't. He never does. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in that stiff hospital bed with tubes in my arm and fire in my chest, trying to make sense of how I ended up here. I kept picturing his face, calm and smug, telling me I'd thank him someday. At dawn, I buzzed the nurse and asked for my personal bag. The second my phone hit my hand, I dialed Rachel. She answered half asleep. Jenna, I need a lawyer, I said. My voice was flat, but inside I was shaking. I'm not letting this slide. By 10 a.m., she was in my room with an iced coffee and a legal pad, like she was prepping for war. That's the kind of friend Rachel is. Ride or die with a mean side eye when needed. She pulled a chair up to my bed. Okay, what do you have? I dumped the folder out on the sheets. Consent forms, notes, doctor's contact information. Start with this. The signature's fake. The note says I was too anxious. I was fine. Rachel flipped through the pages, her face getting tighter with every line. This is bad. Really bad. I looked her dead in the eye. He took away my choice. He signed me away. She nodded slowly. You need a medical malpractice lawyer. Someone aggressive. I want both of them, Ethan and the hospital. Every name on that paperwork, I want held accountable. Rachel paused. You're absolutely right. But you also need to protect yourself. Ethan's gonna spin this. He'll say you were unstable, emotional, whatever makes him look noble. I don't care what he says anymore. You should, she said, leaning in. Because he's not just arrogant, he's calculated. You think this was the first time he made decisions without you? I didn't answer. I already knew. Rachel made some calls while I pulled up old texts on my phone. Sure enough, a few months ago, there it was. Ethan casually suggesting maybe kids weren't the best idea, given your anxiety issues. Like he was laying the groundwork. My stomach turned. He'd been planning this. An hour later, the hospital's patient liaison called me back. We do show 2 signed forms, the woman said, polite but clipped. One signed by the patient prior to surgery. A second, amended consent signed by Mr. Walsh was added during the procedure. No one questioned that. There was no formal objection recorded, she said. Dr. Nelson had full discretion under the power of attorney. I laughed bitterly. So no one raised an eyebrow when a grown woman didn't consent to losing her uterus, but her husband did. There was a pause. Ms. Walsh, if you'd like to file a formal grievance. Already on it, I said, and hung up. Rachel and I started putting everything together, screenshots of texts, photos of the documents, a timeline of events. She'd already found a firm in Des Moines that specialized in medical consent cases. By that afternoon, I was on a Zoom call with a lawyer named Mr. Gaines. He listened, didn't interrupt, just scribbled notes and nodded occasionally. "This isn't just malpractice," he said finally. "It's potentially criminal. Forgery, fraud, violation of informed consent." My hands were sweating, but I kept my voice steady. "Then let's go after all of them." "It won't be fast," he warned. "And it won't be easy. They'll push back hard. Especially your husband. He's not my husband anymore." Gaines smiled slightly. "Good. You'll need that energy." After the call, Rachel looked over at me. "You okay?" "No," I said, "but I'm done being quiet." 2 days later, I rolled into my lawyer's office in a wheelchair, legs still weak, but fire in my chest fully lit. Mr. Gaines had already pulled the hospital records. He handed me a thick folder and said, "You're not just right, you're bulletproof." Inside was everything: the consent forms, Ethan's signature next to that forged version of mine, a written statement from Dr. Nelson confirming that the hysterectomy was non-urgent and medically optional. They had zero grounds to move forward without my say-so. I stared at Ethan's signature again, perfect as ever, like he hadn't blinked. "We record him," I told Gaines. "We get him on tape." Gaines nodded. "You go in calm. He'll try to spin it again. Let him. We'll do the rest." I went home the next morning and I set the trap that afternoon. I texted Ethan, "We need to talk at the house. No fighting, just come." He showed up within an hour, looking smug and casual like we were meeting to talk about bills. He walked into the kitchen like he still owned the place. "Glad you reached out," he said, pulling out a chair. "I've been worried. You've had a lot of people in your ear lately." I sat across from him, phone hidden in my lap, recording app running. "I'm giving you a chance to explain yourself, fully." One time, he sighed like I was being dramatic. "Jenna, I did what I thought was right. You don't understand how you were acting these last few months. The pressure, the obsession. You were unraveling." "Cut the script," I said. "You signed for a surgery I never agreed to. You forged my name." He leaned forward. "That's not how it happened. You were scared. We talked about this a dozen times. What if something went wrong? What if you couldn't carry?" "We talked. We never agreed." "You were panicking the morning of. The nurse told me you couldn't even speak." "I spoke just fine. I kissed you and said I'd be home by dinner. I was calm. You lied." He shook his head. "You needed me to make that call. You would have fallen apart. You've said before how broken the system is. Well, I stepped in before it broke you." "And now you're going to pay for it," I said, flipping the folder onto the table. His eyes scanned the top page, the doctor's letter on official letterhead. "This says the surgery wasn't medically necessary." Because it wasn't. You made it sound like I was bleeding out. You made it sound like I was incapable of deciding anything." "I never said that." I raised my phone. "You're still saying it. Keep going." His eyes flickered. "You're recording me?" "I'm building a case," I said. "Every lie, every word, every spin. You've done enough. Now I get to decide what happens next." He stood fast, knocking the chair back. "You're overreacting. Number. I'm reacting exactly how any sane woman would after her husband took away her body without asking." He turned toward the door, then stopped. "You won't win this." "I already did," I said. "You just haven't realized it yet." He walked out without slamming the door, like that would make him the bigger man. I didn't move until I heard his car pull out of the driveway. For the first time since the surgery, I breathed without shaking. I texted Mr. Gaines. "Got him. Full audio. We're on." The clip of Ethan digging his own grave with that smug little speech in my kitchen made its way into the hands of the media within a week. Mr. Gaines didn't even flinch when a local reporter showed up outside his office. "It's going public anyway," he said. Might as well control the narrative. The first headline hit the morning after. "Iowa woman's husband signs off on secret hysterectomy." By day 3, my inbox exploded. News outlets, women's groups, strangers from out of state. People either wanted to tell me their stories or asked if the details were real. They were, every single one. I gave a short interview to a local station. I kept my voice steady, face neutral. I said I wasn't here to destroy anyone. I was here to reclaim something that should have never been taken in the first place. Ethan's company issued a vague PR statement distancing themselves. We are aware of the allegations and have placed Mr. Walsh on unpaid leave, pending legal review. That same day, he wiped his LinkedIn. Guess it's harder to brag about climbing the ladder when your foot's caught in a bear trap. But not everybody was on my side. Some guy from a podcast emailed me, asking if I regretted dragging your private marriage issues into the public just for attention. Another comment thread said I probably made it all up for a payout. Rachel called it noise. They don't matter. They're the kind of people who'd defend a chainsaw if it wore a tie. Still, some nights it got to me. The toll of repeating my story over and over, watching strangers twist it into whatever made them comfortable. But every time I opened my messages, I found something else. A woman in Arizona wrote, "My husband forged my name for an abortion in 2009. I never told anyone. Thank you." A mom in Ohio, "I was 17. My father signed for a tubal ligation. I found out 2 years later." Another one from Texas, "I thought I was crazy. You proved I wasn't." Each message hit like a punch and a hug at the same time. So when the state invited me to speak at a panel on medical consent reform, I said yes. I didn't care if Ethan was watching. I hoped he was. The event was held at the Capitol building in Des Moines. Rows of people in folding chairs, lights hotter than they needed to be, cameras in every corner. When they called my name, I walked up to the mic with my lawyer in the front row and Rachel right behind him, arms crossed, daring anyone to say something sideways. I took a breath. Then I lit the fuse. "My name is Jenna Walsh," I said. "And 2 months ago, my husband gave a doctor permission to remove my uterus without my consent." A hush fell over the room. I let it sit. I was fully capable of making my own decisions. I was conscious that morning. I was clear. And yet, because I was labeled as too anxious, a note written by someone I never met, my legal rights were erased. I scanned the room, locked eyes with a few reporters, and kept going. What happened to me is not rare. What is rare is someone saying it out loud. These kinds of decisions get buried in hospital paperwork and family silence. I'm not burying mine. Rachel gave me a small nod from the second row. "I'm not here to play victim. I'm here to tell you that systems allow this. Legal loopholes, lazy policies, and yes, people like my husband, who think they know better than the women they claim to love." A couple heads dropped. One woman wiped her eyes. "I can't undo what happened, but I can fight like hell to make sure no one else gets blindsided in an operating room." The applause started before I even stepped back. Not a standing ovation, just loud and raw, like people were clapping with their teeth clenched. The verdict hit like a clean snap of bone, loud, final, and weirdly satisfying. Ethan was ordered to pay damages, significant ones. The judge called his actions reckless and manipulative, and every lawyer in the room nodded like they already knew. His medical power of attorney was revoked, permanently. His name's now flagged in every hospital in the state. The asset division was brutal for him. I walked away with everything, the house, the car, our accounts. Not because I needed any of it, because I earned the right to decide what happens to me. I walked out of that courthouse with my lawyer beside me and Rachel holding a coffee like it was a victory trophy. The sky was gray, clouds rolling off the top of the building like smoke, but I felt lighter than I had in weeks. I didn't cry, I didn't smile, I just breathed. Deep, clear. The next day I got an email from a fertility clinic in Chicago. They'd read my story, said they had options, said I had time. That email sat in my inbox for 3 days. I'd open it, read the subject line, close it again. Not because I was scared, but because it was the first time I got to choose. On the 4th morning, I clicked it. Then I picked up the phone. "Hi," I said. "I'm not sure what I want yet, but I'd like to talk about it." The woman on the other end didn't pressure me. She just said, "Whenever you're ready, we'll be here." I thanked her and hung up. Then I got dressed. Jeans, hoodie, no makeup. No one to impress. I drove back to the courthouse alone. Not for paperwork. Not for closure. Just to stand there. I looked up at the steps. I thought about the version of me who walked into this place the first time. Bruised, dazed, scared. She was gone now. I wasn't healed. Not yet, but I was free. The wind picked up. I pulled my hoodie tighter and turned toward the parking lot. And as I walked away, the sun broke through the clouds.